I've been taking exams for as long as I can remember, and I can probably say it's been over 20 years of taking exams so far, which sounds like a lot. And over the years, I have developed strategies that not only have helped me pass comfortably, but have helped me pass very well. And after every exam I've sat, I managed to tweak and develop these strategies even further. So I've now developed what I call these peak study strategies that will really help you pass exams very, very comfortably. The first one is preparation, and I cannot emphasize this enough. And this is often where people fall short on, and not really putting in the time to actually figure out what is it that you need to know for your exam. And I treat it the same way as if you were going on a road trip. You want to plan out what route you're going to be taking, how long is it going to take you to get there, are you going to have to fill up with petrol kind of on the way. We're not going to go there blindly without having any sort of idea of the journey to get there. And that's the same principle when it comes to exams, because for me it was all about knowing what I need to know and when do I need to know it for. So before I even put pen to paper, before I dive into anything, I want to know what is the core material that it is that I need to cover, and that is where the bulk of the questions are going to come from. Have an overview of the curriculum, and in that way I can figure out what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, so then I can prioritize what I need to study first based on the fact that I'm weak in that subject or I'm finding it quite difficult. So once I've done that, I've got a much clearer idea of what I need to be doing, and that brings me into timetabling. Timetable is so important. One of the ways that helped me was to keep organized and also to keep track of what I'm actually doing on a given day. When it comes to timetable each day, instead of just writing cover biology or cover science or cover chemistry, I'll be very specific what I wanted to cover on that day. So when it came to actually sitting down at my desk, I knew exactly what it is that I needed to cover. And that means I'm not just relying on things like motivation, and I'm less likely to procrastinate, when I'm not really in the mood for it, to be like, oh, what am I actually covering today? No, I know exactly what I'm doing today. And then there is quality over quantity. Before an exam, even a couple of months before the exam, I always try to make sure that I'm covering at least something, at least once an hour a day. And just that consistency and the frequency of going through things kind of got me into that mindset of building that study period into my routine, making sure that even through the year, making sure that every time I'm given new content or new material, that I've at least understood it, so that by the time it comes to the exam, I'm not just learning something new, it's only just about having to revisit it and remind myself again. And the next one is compete, but only with yourself. We've got a tendency to compare ourselves to other people, but I think it's really important that we actually just compete with ourselves. The reason being, we all have very different learning strategies. Some people work better at night, some people work better in the morning. For me, it was about knowing what my strengths were, what is my best time of the day, how do I like to learn, what are the strategies that I like to use, and just avoid comparing myself to other people, and only really to compare my previous self to my present self and my present self to my future self rather than anyone else. The next one is to challenge your boundaries. And what I mean by that is that not for a single exam have I aimed to just pass. I always wanted to challenge myself and see how well can I do in an exam, do justice to myself, make sure that I'm putting in the maximum amount of effort when it comes to my studying, and therefore seeing the results of that, hopefully, rather than just settling for a pass. We've had teachers who tell us, you're only going to get a C, you've been predicted a B grade. That is not set in stone. You can smash that. I treat it as people who run, you're constantly trying to improve your personal best. You're seeing how fast can you go any faster, can you go any further? And treating my study in that way, it almost turns it into a challenge to myself, almost like a game where I'm trying to beat myself. So I felt that really helped drum up the motivation to carry on, especially in difficult days or a stressful day where I really couldn't be bothered. A lot of it is also mindset. If you go into that exam telling yourself that you're going to fail, then you're less likely to study, and then you might fail and you think to yourself, I was right, but actually it's what we tell ourselves that we become, really. And the next one is to use visual diagrams as much as possible when you are looking at information that is very text heavy, to take advantage of the way our brain processes new memories and new information. And the more modalities that you use, so whether that's auditory, whether that's reading, whether that's visual, the more stronger these memories are going to be. So I always found that things that are very complicated in concepts, or there's a lot of information, just translating it into a visual diagram, like a mind map or a step kind of ladder, really helped me make a bit more sense of things. And then the next one is something called the Feynman technique. And I've talked about this in lots of my other videos, and this is the single best way for me to make sure that I've, one, understood whatever that I have to learn, and two, I can recall it. And that is actually explaining it to someone else. So learning by teaching it to someone else is like groundbreaking. And you know for definite, if you can explain something really well to someone, then that means you know the content. If you cannot explain it, then you probably need to revisit things. And then you can even go a step further and pretend that you're trying to explain this to a 5-year-old. So really kind of distilling down the concept into very, very simple parts means I've understood the kind of the foundation of what I'm trying to learn. And that is so important. And the next thing is, which is kind of similar, is constantly asking yourself the why and the how of whatever you're trying to learn. Constantly asking yourself, what is the why and what is the how of this thing I'm trying to learn? Because that means you've understood a concept rather than just kind of like taking things face value and just trying to memorize it. You've actually understood the concept as a whole. How does this learning fit into the wider picture of the material being presented to me? This is a much deeper way of processing information, and it's more effective. And I'm all about studying smart. I'm all about minimizing the amount of time we're studying and maximizing time we could be doing other things. And the next one is, which kind of relates to the preparation aspect of it, is are there any sort of past papers? Is there any past source material? Are there people who are older than you that you could be asking for advice? You know, what other type of stuff that's come up in these exams? What is it that people do consistently bad on the exam? Is there sort of feedback that you can kind of get hold of? And last but not least is eating well, sleeping well, and playing well. And by playing, I mean, yeah, literally playing or going out with friends, doing other things that's not related to the studying. This is probably the most important aspect of all the strategies I'm talking about. All of them are useless if you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, and you're not socializing. We really underestimate the power of a good night's sleep. Sleep is not just to close your eyes and wake up the next morning. The brain, whilst we're sleeping, is constantly revisiting information, strengthening connections of new things that we have learned. We're more likely to concentrate, our cognition improves. It's endless. And also our diet. Food is literally food for our brain. How do you feel after eating, I don't know, really badly for a couple of days where you're just eating junk food? I personally feel really sluggish, I've got headaches, I feel really tired, I feel less motivated to be doing anything. So that goes to show how important our diet is to kind of our concentration and being able to study and just generally being motivated. And also taking breaks. I had a tendency in the past to let studying consume my life. I felt like it was a thing that I had to do, so I couldn't go out, I couldn't watch TV. Taking breaks and doing other things that's not studying really helped me renew my sense of motivation. I was less likely to procrastinate because I wasn't going to be treating my studying as a punishment because I've been neglecting everything else. So taking breaks is so key. Anyway, hopefully you found this useful. These are some of the personal things that I have been doing time and time again when it comes to taking exams, and they've always been really beneficial for me. So hopefully you found it useful. As always, if you found this video helpful in any way, please like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.